Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my take on the Dark Magician deck profile. However, before we begin, I do want to say that this deck is kind of rough to play in this format unless you combine it with like the Kashtira stuff. However, I wanted to go for a more pure build, and I will let you guys know that this is more of a casual build than anything else. However, with that being said, it does have a lot of competitive uses as well. But let's go ahead and jump on into it. Also, before we begin, if you guys are seeing this on some other person's channel, be sure to come over to my channel, give me a like, and check it out. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, of course, starting out, we do run 2 copies of Dark Magician. Dark Magician is one of those cards that it can break if you run more than 2. However, some people do like to run 3. That's personal preference. I just prefer 2. Continuing on, we do, of course, run the 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl. Dark Magician Girl, the only use for this in this deck is the Magician's Salvation. It doesn't come up that often, however, when it does, you can use it for link plays and all that other stuff. However, it can be a brick, so you want to be careful while playing it, and you do not want to run more than 1 copy. Alright, continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Tamias the United Dragon. This card has the effect of, you can send 1 spellcaster monster or 1 spell trap that mentions Dark Magician from your hand or face on the field to the graveyard to special summon it. This card is practically just a polymerization on legs for this deck. However, sometimes you just need that extra bit of damage to poke over your opponent, and it has 2800 attack. These are the 4 bricks of the deck. However, Dark Magician, and I would even argue Tamias, is somewhat needed. Continuing on to the best normal summon in the deck, 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod just says that when it's summoned, you can search for a spell or trap that mentions Dark Magician in its text. Really good card just to be able to use for consistency. The other effect, we don't really use that often, so I'm not going to mention it, but really good card. Continuing on, we do, of course, run 3 copies of Magician's Souls. Magician's Souls just says that you can special summon it from your hand by sending a spellcaster from your deck, so that would be like your Dark Magician, so that way you can set up your Eternal Soul to summon that back later on. However, the main effect that is also really good for this build is the discarding or sending of a spell or trap on the field or in the hand to the graveyard to be able to draw cards. You can pretty much send up to 2, then draw the same number. Then we run only 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos is really good, however, it can also be bricked in the hand. And it was either we run 3 copies of this and 2 copies of Preparation of Rites. However, I figured since Preparation of Rites is in fact a spell card and can be pitched off of the Magician's Souls, we should only like that. I wanted to just run 2 instead of 3. For those who don't know, the effect of Illusion of Chaos, it says that while this card is in your hand, you can reveal it, and then you can add from your deck to your hand 1 monster that is not Illusion of Chaos that mentions Dark Magician in its text and add it to your hand. And then you have to put Illusion of Chaos on top of the deck. Really good card to be able to search for anything you need, but really that's it for the monsters. Alright, continuing on to the spell cards, we do, of course, run 3 copies of Soul Servant. Soul Servant is, in fact, one of the best spells in the deck, being able to place 1 card from your hand, deck, or graveyard to the top of the deck, and then it also has another effect that says that you can banish this card from your graveyard, then draw cards equal to the number of Dark Magicians on field or in the graveyard. So practically, you can immediately activate it and then be able to draw the card that you added on top of the deck. Then, continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Secrets of Dark Magic. Secrets of Dark Magic is just the fusion and ritual card of the deck. It does both, and it's a quick play. Really don't need to get into it too much. The only requirement is you use a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl for the fusion or ritual. Continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Dark Magical Circle. Dark Magical Circle has the effect of you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then add 1 Dark Magician or a card that specifically mentions Dark Magician in its text, and add that card to the hand, and then you can put the rest of the cards on top of your deck in any order. And then it has a second effect of while this card is on the field, if a Dark Magician is normal or special summoned, you can banish 1 card your opponent controls. Only reason why we run 2 copies is that first effect is a on activation, so you can't use that any other turn after the activation. And the other effect is a hard once per turn, so we don't want to clog our field with Dark Magical Circles while trying to dig and not be able to do anything else. Continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites just allows you to add a level 7 or lower monster from your deck to your hand. Then you can add 1 ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. The second effect doesn't come up, however, the adding of a ritual monster really does, to be able to search for your Illusion of Chaos. And of course, as I said, we run 3 copies of this because we can send it off of souls if we need to. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Magician's Salvation. This card has the effect of when it is activated, you can set 1 Eternal Soul from your deck to your field. Then the second effect, again, it doesn't really come up that often, however, it says that whenever a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl is normal or special summoned to your side of the field, you can special summon the other one from the graveyard, which honestly, we're not going to get Dark Magician Girl in the graveyard that much. However, if you were to summon Dark Magician Girl for some reason, you can get your Dark Magician back. It really doesn't come up. However, the first effect is really good, being able to get Eternal Soul to our field. Continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. Secret Village of the Spellcaster says, while you control a Spellcaster monster, and your opponent does not, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. However, if you control no spellcasters, you cannot activate spell cards. So practically, it's like Mystic Mine, but you have to have a spellcaster monster in your field to lock them from using their spell cards. However, if you don't, then you're locked. You could either run 2 copies of this or 3. However, I run only 2 copies, and I do run 1 copy of Necro Valley. Necro Valley just says that while this card is on the field, neither player can remove cards from their graveyard. This can mess up your plays when it comes to if you have Eternal Soul trying to summon back Dark Magician. So I could see if you want to side deck this. I personally want to main deck this in case I'm up against like Tear Lament or Sprite or just anything that can move cards from the graveyard. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Terraforming. Terraforming, of course, is really good because it can get us to any of our other field spells. And then to wrap up the field spell stuff, we do run 3 copies of the newly released Metaverse. I know what some people are probably going to be thinking. I like running the Metaverse because it is technically a floodgate when paired with like Secret Village or Necro Valley. However, if you don't want to run Metaverse and you want to run something else, then by all means go for it. But that's just what I like. Alright, continuing on with the trap cards, we do run 2 copies of Eternal Soul. Eternal Soul is a really good card, however, we only want to run 2 copies because we want to draw into 1 copy, not 2, and if we don't draw any, then we, of course, have the Magician's Salvation to be able to set it. Its effect says you can special summon 1 Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, or you can add 1 Dark Magic Attack or 1,000 Knives from your deck to your hand. However, we do not use that second effect because we do not run Dark Magic Attack or 1,000 Knives in the deck. However, it does have a big downside. Its downside is if this card leaves the field, destroy all monsters you control. That is a really big downside. However, it does also allow your Dark Magician to not be affected by card effects. So, it's a good card, but it has a big downside if it's removed from the field. Continuing on, I do run a bunch of Floodgates, and I know what y'all are probably thinking, why Floodgates? It's because this deck it's decent, but it needs a little bit extra. So we run 3 copies of Skill Drain just to turn off the effects of monsters. We run 3 copies of Rivalry of Warlords because all of our monsters are spellcasters. And then we run 3 copies of Goes and Match just because all of our monsters are darks and this doesn't really affect us. So that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. Alright, continuing into the extra deck, we do run 1 copy of the Dark Magicians. The Dark Magicians has the effect of, once per turn if a spell or trap card is activated, except during the damage step, you can draw 1 card, and then if it was a spell or trap, you can set that card. However, if it was a trap or quick play spell, you can activate it this turn. This card also has the effect of, if this card is sent to the graveyard, or if this card is destroyed, pardon me, it can special summon 1 Dark Magician and 1 Dark Magician Girl from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So that is a pretty good effect. I really like this card, but that's really about it for this card. It comes up, but it doesn't come up too often for me. Continuing on, we run the best card in this deck. We run 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This, of course, is the main fusion target for Timaeus, as well as the Secrets of Dark Magic. Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, of course, if y'all don't know, has the effect of if your opponent activates a card, practically, you can just discard one card to negate and destroy it. It also gains 1,000 attack points, and that is a permanent gain. It also has another effect that, depending on how many normal monsters were used for the fusion summon of this monster, you can destroy that many cards on the field each turn, and then burn your opponent for the attack of the monster that was destroyed. So that's it for the fusions. The other fusion that was released a while back, we do not use it because it is not good. Or if we were to run it, we'd only run one, but honestly, I think that we're just better off without it. Alright, continuing on to the Link monsters, we do run one copy of Artemis the Magicious Moon Maiden and one copy of Link Spider. The reason why we run these is for the same reason, it's just to be able to get monsters off the field and into the graveyard. However, Link Spider can definitely come up a little bit more, because if you're trying to set up, let's say, your Magician's Circle and your Eternal Soul, you have both of those on field, and you want to be able to banish a card your opponent controls, but you don't have a Dark Magician Grave, you just link off into Link Spider, and then you'll be able to summon back the Dark Magician. So really, not much more needs to be said about those two, but continuing on, I do run a IP Masquerena engine. Y'all can choose not to, it's really personal choice. I just like it because we can be able to interact with our opponents just a little bit more. So we run one copy of IP Masquerena, one Unicorn, and one Phoenix. For those who don't know what IP Masquerena does, it just says that once returned during your opponent's turn, quick effect during their main phase, you can link summon a monster using monsters you control, or you just link summon a monster. So let's say you were running the Underworld Goddess, you can just link using a monster your opponent controls. So that could be another option. However, I like Unicorn just to be able to spin a monster back to the hand or back to the deck, and then Nightmare Phoenix to pop a spell or trap on the field. Continuing on to the cards that help you link climb, we do run one copy of the Dark Charmer Gloomy. This card just says that this is a monster born to your side of the field of a dark monster in your opponent's graveyard, which you can then use to link into Celine, Queen of the Master Magicians. This card says that when this card is summoned, you put spell counters on this card equal to the amount of spells that are in play and in the graveyard. Then you can remove that many spell counters to special summon the level of a spellcaster in the graveyard. Just summon it to your side of the field. So let's say you had Magician's Rod, you just remove 3 counters off this card to special summon it. Then we do run one copy of Apollosa, Bow of the Goddess, just to be able to add some more monster negations, and then we also do run Access Code to help us to close out games. Continuing on, we do run one Ebon Illusion Magician. This card has the detach effect of you can detach one material from this card to special summon one normal spellcaster from your hand or your deck. However, we're not going to make this that often because we do in fact need, of course, 2 level 7s to summon it, and we only run 2 level 7s in the deck. However, it is just a pretty good card to be able to go into Divine Arsenal Double A Zeus. That being said, we do of course run one Divine Arsenal Double A Zeus, just to be able to help us to wipe our opponent's field. Continuing on, to wrap up the extra deck, I do run one copy of Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon. This is just personal preference. I really like this card because every time your opponent activates a card effect, it just inflicts 500 points of damage to your opponent. Pretty simple. The detach effect doesn't come up because we don't run Red Eyes. However, it also cannot be destroyed by card effects while it has Xyz material. So, I think it's a really good card. I can see why people would run something else over it, but I just personally like it. Alright, so with that being said, that's going to be the end of the video. Be sure to leave a like, comment down below what you guys think of the deck profile. Subscribe to the channel if you really enjoyed the deck profile and want to see more. Be sure to hit that bell notification button. With that being said, that's going to be it. See ya.